Hi, this is Marie. I'm one of Sherri's designers, and I'm excited to show you today how to create a textured rock. And we're going to be using Sherri's clear stamp called Start Every Day with a Smile. I think she's an adorable image, and I decided to have her standing on some rocks. We did this image last week, and I showed you how to use ink tints to color her hair. Now today we'll be using texture paste and watercolor to create that rocky kind of a rugged terrain that she's going to be standing on. I'm using some watercolor paper for this technique. It doesn't really matter if it's cold press or hot press because we're going to be applying the watercolor on top of texture paste. So I masked her little shoes, her boots, and this is fine line. I'm just going to show you 3 examples of masking fluid you can use, and this one has a very sharp needle, as you can see, and you just squeeze it. I sometimes have problems with my needle clogging, so I have it. I like it when it works. When it doesn't, I get frustrated and I go to my other brands. I have Misket and I also have Winsor Newton. But my very favorite is Winsor Newton. And you use a brush. Use an old brush, one you really don't care about, because it will ruin any good brush you have. You should always wash it off immediately, but even with that, it will gum up your brushes. So just take a light coat, you adhere it, spread it over the areas that you want to protect, that you want to not have any runoff from any of your other colors. It's a great technique to use for, say, even your Copic markers, if you have intricate areas, spritzing, or even using your Copic airbrush. So now we're going to take some texture paste and we're going to adhere the ground. I think it's always important to ground your images because you want to have a perspective, a place for your images to rest, in order to give it a more realistic look. And so I'm just applying this with a palette knife, and I'm doing it irregular, kind of like large boulder type strokes, to where you'll have that rugged, rocky appearance. And you don't begin just at the bottom, but you start back a little bit closer to the ankle area, because you want a little bit of background to be in back of your image. We allow this to dry. You can either heat set it or allow it to just dry for an hour or so. Come back with some watercolor. I'm going to just be using some brown. And I'm taking a size 10 brush. It will get good coverage. And you start by wetting your area that you have applied your texture paste. You wet it with water. That will be a very important step, making sure. And then you take just some of your watercolor. I'm using, as I said, like a light brown, and you just kind of do a light little wash around it. And then you go back and you can apply more ink to your watercolor to your brush and apply some more a little bit darker. If you feel like you want some lighter in areas, you can take a little cloth or a paper towel and just dab it very lightly, and it will remove the area of your watercolor. I'm applying a darker heavy coat because I want it to be darker at the bottom. And you have your little mask already on the shoes, so you don't need to worry about ruining the shoes. But normally watercolor will flow where the water was, and our first step was to apply the water, and so you don't have to worry. It'll usually just stay where you applied the water. I'm just rubbing the area that I want to remove. The masking fluid comes off readily and your image is intact. It doesn't do any damage to your colored image. And so I have it drying now, and you'll notice that the initial one I did was slightly lighter. But the second one will, as it dries, it will lighten a little slightly as well. So as you do this, you can make sure that all the masking tape is off. And as you see, it just pulls nicely. A little bit was left on. And it comes off, and there you have your little boots underneath. There may be some slight little areas that you can see that didn't get quite enough color. Maybe a little masking fluid was over a little bit. You didn't get quite enough color around the image. So go ahead and take a little brush with some color and just touch that up at this time. And make sure that you don't have open space, white showing between your image and your background in that area. You'll want to keep color bumped up against color. And there you have it. I think that this is a perfect image to lend itself for her standing, whether it's in grass or rugged terrain. But with this texture technique, there's so many fun things you can do with it. So I hope you pull out some texture paste, some watercolor, and give it a try. I'd love to see some of your images in which you've watercolored over the top of some textured background. And again, this stamp set is in Sherri Baldy's shop, and it's called Start Each Day with a Smile. Thank you for watching. Come back soon and give it a big thumbs up.